Hello and welcome to Human Design Chart Spotlights, where I take a focused look at individual charts around a specific question or theme. In today's chart spotlight reading, I'm looking at the chart of a 1-3 Sacral Manifesting Generator who wanted to explore finances and how financial topics impact her in her design and how she can work with those. No personal details are shared in this video, just the design and what it has to say about that specific question. So if you have the same type or profile, for example, or if this theme is showing up in your own life right now, watch how this lands for you. Your chart might be saying something similar. So here's the video. Okay. Hi, and I am here to do your reading, your human design spotlight. And you had asked me to talk about finances in regards to your chart. So I didn't have a specific question from you, but there are a lot of places in your chart where we can look at finances, look at where maybe you might get stuck or have strengths around managing finances. And so we'll look at those today. I want to start with over here. Whoops, let me get my little annotation here. I want to start with your gate 45, which is right up here in your throat center. So you have an undefined gate 45. Again, defined or undefined in human design, neither one is good or bad. They're just different ways that we take in or send out energy. Okay, if we have something defined, we tend to have a more consistent access to that energy. And if something is undefined, we tend to take in energy from external sources, and that influences how we manage that particular energy. Okay, so the gate 45, this is the gate of the gatherer. It's also known as the money gate, and it's about managing resources. Okay, and money is a resource, right? Now, with this gate undefined, you may have a love-hate relationship with managing your money or managing any of your resources or finances. There may be some conditioning about around how you manage money. Okay, maybe there was a story early on in your life that said, you're not good with managing money, or money is the root of all evil, and so we have these stories in the back of our minds, and that can influence how we manage our resources, right? So that's just something to look at. The next thing I want to look at is the other side of this 45 channel here, and that's the gate 21. And you have the gate 21 defined in an undefined will center. So that's got kind of a special thing going on. Gate 21 is also about resource management and control. Okay, it comes out of your will center, which is about control and value and self-worth. Okay, and so when you have this defined gate 21 in an undefined will center, it's a dormant gate. So it's kind of like the undefined gate. The energy there is not going to be as consistent for you. Okay, it will take some external things, external influences that will often define how you experience this energy of the gate 21. Okay, let's see. And again, with this undefined will center, sometimes there can be some conditioning around questioning our value and how we see ourselves. And so again, that can influence, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, how we manage the resources that we have if we feel we're deserving of them. Okay, that can sometimes be a big theme there. So that said, you also have, so the gate 21 is defined for you, and it's defined in your north node, right over here on the design side. Now, the north node is where you are designed to go in this lifetime. It's an energy that you're here to learn. So the gate 21.3, that's gate 21 line 3, from a financial standpoint, since that's your question today, is about getting out of the corporate world and becoming more in control of where your money comes from. Okay, which I know you've done with starting businesses, and that kind of thing. Not always, wanting to stay in a job situation, but being more independent. Okay, and having more control. So again, that gate 21 being about that control there. Um, Now, going back to that undefined will center again, go back to my notes here. While you may prefer this path of autonomy and owning your own business versus having a job and depending on somebody else, that open will can sometimes get in the way if you question your value or if you feel like you constantly have to prove yourself or prove your value in the marketplace. Okay. So I want to stop here for just a minute, and because these all are kind of have this whole underlying theme, and I want to address this. Number one, you do not have to prove your worth ever. And I tell this to every client of mine. None of us have to prove our worth. Now, we have a lot of conditioning around that. And again, whether you have a defined or undefined will center or which gates you have defined, there can often be a lot of conditioning around self-worth and value. So you never have to prove yourself to anyone, but you may have some conditioning around that. Number two, your incarnation cross, which that is right up here. Whoops, where do we go? Here we are. Is the right angle cross of the unexpected. And it sounds kind of weird. It's like, what do you mean the unexpected? So the right angle cross of the unexpected is where you have a tendency to use your past experiences and challenges to redefine what you know as valuable. Okay, you are going to bring different things together to something totally new and unexpected. Okay, using your past experiences to explore new possibilities and take new directions, and create new dreams for the future. That is your value. Okay, so your incarnation cross is basically why you're here. It's who you're here to be. It's your life purpose. Okay, so regardless of what job or what career or what business you're building or what you're doing with your life, this theme of building on your past, your experiences, your challenges, and putting that all together to create something new, to find a new dream or a new path. Okay. So that is, a theme in your life here in this time around. So let me get out of those. Um, you're also a manifesting generator. Okay. That's up here. That is your energy type. And I'm also a manifesting generator, so I can totally relate to this. Um, we are here to, part of what we are here to do as manifesting generators, who we're here to be, is to take all of these different activities that we do and bring them together to create something new and something different and something of value to the world that nobody else can possibly do because it's just part of who we are and it's how we're wired. Okay. So a lot of times as a manifesting generator, we might be told that we're inconsistent or we're kind of flaky. We can't focus on just one thing. We're scattered. We're doing all these different things. That's part of how we're wired. We're supposed to be doing all of these different things. And the fun part is taking all of these different things and merging them into one creation. So myself, for example, when I started coaching, um, I was coaching young moms who were building a home business and trying to balance work and life and build this business around their family. So that was the focus of my coaching. Well, then it evolved into, I kind of shifted and pivoted into holistic health coaching, which again was people bringing balance into their lives. And then a few iterations later, now I'm here doing human design coaching, and it's the same kind of thing. So there's still this same underlying theme of what I do, but I'm taking all these different pieces in my life. I studied Chinese medicine and energy medicine, and I've run my own home businesses, and I raised my family, and I put all of these things together to build the coaching practice that is uniquely mine. Okay. And so that's what we do as manifesting generators. We have all these different interests and we do all these different things, and we want to pull them all together and create something new. That said, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later also when we talk about your right work. Um, as a manifesting generator, you are also not necessarily going to be in the same job or the same business for your entire life. You're going to jump, you're going to pivot, you're going to, move from this thing to that, and they'll all kind of tend to merge from one to the next. And again, that is part of how you're wired. And so that's just totally you. That's just who you are. Um, so this is all really exciting stuff because you have all of this outside stuff or all of these different things going on. And we've already touched on a bunch of different themes that are saying you're going to take all of these things and bring them together. And that is part of your gift to the world. That's your value. That's something that you have to offer that nobody else can offer. It is uniquely yours. Okay. So just wanted to touch on that real quick before we move on. Moving on, you also have the gate 14 defined, and that is, I just lost my place. There it is. So gate 14, oh yeah, that is right down here in your sacral center. You have that defined sacral center. That's part of what makes you a manifesting generator. Um, this is the gate of creation. So again, I've already talked a little bit about, bringing things together and creating something new. Okay, well, you have that gate 14 defined. And it's also about being at peace with your resources. But when you're feeling out of balance, maybe there's some conditioning around this gate, and that could show up as fear or worry about money. Okay. And you may want to compromise your calling in order to just do whatever it takes to make enough money to survive. Okay. You might give up on this business because there's some conditioning around, I'm not good enough, I can never make this work or whatever. I'll just take this job because it's safe, it'll pay me, a regular paycheck, and it'll keep me going. It'll pay the bills for me. Okay. And so that's part of that conditioning around there, is not trusting that we have what we need. We have what we need to get that abundance. Okay. And so again, we can kind of compromise what our true calling is. You've got this defined sacral here, and that's going to tell you what your right work is. That's kind of going to tell you what you know you need to be doing. Okay. But sometimes we'll second guess, this undefined will center will jump in and start saying, well, maybe you're not good enough to do this. Okay. So all of those things aside, you do have that gate 14 defined, and you really, stay focused on the work that you were meant to do. And I'm going to talk about that work that you're meant to do in a minute. I know I'm talking really fast here, but some of this stuff is really exciting and I just want to get it all out. So the other side of the gate 14 that we just talked about is the gate 2. And gate 2 is undefined for you. Um, and that just means that, again, that energy in that center is going to be a little inconsistent for you. You're not necessarily going to have consistent access to that energy. And the gate 2 shows up, and being undefined, it can show up as a fear of not being supported by the universe. So again, kind of like what we talked about with the conditioning around the gate 14, and compromising what we know is our right work and just settling for the job. Gate 2 can have that same kind of aspect there, where if you don't feel like you're supported by the universe, you start to turn inward and try to be as self-sufficient as possible, and you try to do everything yourself, rather than reaching out to community or accepting help that might come your way, or accepting those opportunities that come your way. And it's going internal and saying, well, I can do this all myself, I can do this all my own way, and that can lead to burnout. And once you've hit burnout, that can also affect how you attract abundance. And if you're not able to work in an even capacity or at peace with yourself or at peace with your business and at peace with your value, then, that kind of derails everything that you're trying to do. So again, that gate two, having it undefined there and having that external energy potentially influencing and showing up as that fear of not being supported. And so then we drop back into, well, maybe I'm really not meant to do this. Okay, maybe I'm not good at managing money. Maybe I'm not good at managing resources. Maybe I was never meant to have any of this stuff. Okay. So we want to work on that conditioning and get that out of there. So that'll just be something, again, to look at as you study your design even more. Now, something else I want to talk about. So we've talked about some of the gates that can be tied to financial stuff. I also want to talk about your Jupiter gates. And so these are your two Jupiter gates. So you have gate 40, line 2, and gate 6, line 4. So on your personality side, that's this right-hand side here, these are themes that you're going to kind of see more readily in your everyday life. On your design side, these are going to be themes that are going to be more underlying and in the subconscious. You will still notice them. They're just not going to be, maybe as outwardly, showing in your day-to-day life. So that gate 6-4, so Jupiter, let me back up a little bit here. Your Jupiter gates, Jupiter is where your blessings show up in life. Your Jupiter gates are also called your money gates. When you honor your Jupiter gates, you align yourself with expansion and opportunities. Okay, so when you align with that gate 6 and when you align with that gate 40, that is going to bring you in tune, so to speak, with receiving abundance, receiving new opportunities. Okay, so gate 6 is, all about learning to trust that the impact you have serves the world. Okay, now we're getting back to your value again, remember. This is learning that, what you have to offer the world is of value. Okay, and, you may see that as, when you get feedback from clients or whatever, when, you get that, you make that sale or whatever it happens to be, or that new opportunity crosses your path. And that's where you're going to like really see, yeah, what I'm doing here really means something to the world and it has value out there in the world. Okay. Now, the other side of that on gate 40, one of the lessons to learn there is valuing yourself and valuing yourself enough to take responsibility for your own self-care. Okay. Now, that's not just about making sure you get proper rest and not go, not, leading into burnout and all of that. But on the financial side, sometimes it means, not giving your power away and learning to say no to protect your resources. Okay, now usually I read this as setting emotional boundaries, but on the financial side, you don't have to give to every charity. Okay, you don't have to discount your services just to attract customers. Your services have a value and you have a value, and the right customers at the right time will pay you for your services and they will pay you what you deserve for your services. Okay, you don't have to discount yourself. You don't have to lend money to every family member just because they're a family member. Okay, so these are different ways that this theme of honoring your boundaries might show up on the financial side or with financial questions. Okay, so that was a lot of information. And some questions for you to consider as you think about all of this together. I know there was like a lot of information in a very short period of time here. But the first question I want you to think about is, what do you have to give to the world? What are your blessings? What are your gifts that you are here to give to the world? And some of that will come from this defined sacral center. When you are doing something, what we call your right work, you're going to feel that in your gut. You're going to get this this almost instant knowing, like, yes, this is what I'm meant to be doing. Um, I might not be making any money at it right now, but I know this is what I'm meant to be doing. And so the financial side of that is where, we look at all of these, the undefined will center and some of these other gates that we talked about and where there might be conditioning around that. Okay. So, what are your gifts to the world? And they might be more subtle gifts, like, you might have a gift for compassion or, something like that. It is also going to be your tangible gifts, the skills that you have that you teach other people, or whether it's, in your business and you teach a certain thing, or you have a certain knowledge, or you're artistic, or you're athletic. These are all gifts. Okay. So what are your gifts that you have to give to the world? That's one question that I want you to think about. The next one is, do you trust in yourself and your value of these gifts? Okay, so maybe everybody's told you all your life that, you have a big heart, or you're a very athletic person, or you're a very artistic person. Do you trust that these are actually gifts of value, that you actually can use these gifts to give something to the world and receive something in return for those gifts? Okay. Third question, kind of a tough one. Do you value yourself? And again, we talked about this a little bit. This, as you maybe look a little deeper into the undefined will center, there can be a lot of conditioning around, well, who am I to think that I could have a successful business? Or who am I to think that I could be financially free? Or, who am I to, you know, become this person that I want to become? Okay. So there can be a lot of conditioning around that and around our value. So the question is, do you value yourself? If you value yourself, that is one step towards allowing other people to value you as well. Because oftentimes, if we don't value ourselves, or if we have a lot of struggle with that, or we have some blockages with that, that can also block us from allowing other people to value us. Okay. I don't know if that made sense. I kind of talked in a circle there. Um, are you doing your right work? And I kind of mentioned that earlier. And again, you've got not only your defined sacral, but also you've got your defined G center, which is your identity center. So you have very consistent energy in both of those places. So you will feel when you are doing something, whether it's your current business or past work that you've done or work that you've considered doing in the future, you feel it in your body that, yes, this is what I'm meant to do and this is what I enjoy doing. That said, remember, you're a manifesting generator, and this right work today might look different in a year. It might look different in 5 years. You'll still have kind of that same underlying theme. Remember, your incarnation cross, that is going to be an underlying theme under, beneath everything that you do. Okay. But you will feel it in your body, pretty solidly that, yes, this is part of what I need to be doing right now. Okay. And like I said, that as a manifesting generator, that might change, it might evolve, it might pivot, but is it what you're doing right now? So you'll know your right work. And if it's not your right work, you will know. If there's that feeling of, sure, maybe I enjoy this or maybe I'm good at it, but it's really not what I want to be doing. Okay. So that's what you want to look at is, are you doing your right work? Are you doing what you're meant to be here to do or to be? Okay. Doobie doobie doo. Um, Next question is, and the last question. Oh, alongside that, are you doing your right work? What would you do if you didn't need money? Now, sometimes that is your right work. And sometimes it might be something different. Well, if I didn't need money, man, I would do this. Okay, so maybe that's a direction that you might want to look. Or if you feel that what you're doing now is your right work, and there's something different that you might do if you didn't need money, maybe there's some merging of those two that needs to come together. And maybe that's where it really brings your right work into the next level of This is your uniqueness. This is what you bring to it. You know, everybody else might have this same business, but this is your unique twist to it. Okay. And the final question, and this is also another that can be difficult one. What agreements are you making with yourself or in your relationships that might cause you to compromise your value? Okay, I'm going to say that again. What agreements are you making with yourself or in your relationships that might cause you to compromise your value? Where might you be shortchanging yourself in order to make it seem like you're more valuable? Where are you maybe making yourself smaller in order to make somebody else feel better? Okay, so where are you compromising yourself? So these are just some questions after we've, kind of looked through these specific things in your design, just some questions to think about, and how that might apply to whatever questions that you have about finances and how you manage resources, um, and all of that. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to go over your chart with you and for asking that question today. If you have any other questions, certainly feel free to reach out to me after you've watched this video. And, I'll certainly answer whatever you need. But again, I appreciate you and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to read your chart for you. So if something in this reading sparked a question about your own chart, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear what came up for you. And if you're ready to take a focused look at your own design, chart spotlight openings are announced on my email list periodically. The link is in the description.